Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're embarking on a journey into something I think is truly transformative. It's about how those seemingly small, almost insignificant actions can actually spark monumental change in your life. We're exploring the surprising, maybe even counterintuitive power of making tiny, consistent improvements. Now let me ask you this. Have you ever had a really big goal, maybe, a new career, getting fit, learning a skill, but you couldn't seem to start? Maybe you felt like I'm not ready or I don't know enough or I'm not skilled enough yet, just waiting for that perfect moment. If that sounds familiar, well, you're definitely not alone.
Oh, absolutely. That feeling is incredibly common. Needing everything perfect before taking that first step. And what's really fascinating is how our brains are actually wired. They often make us resist those big, sudden changes. But, and this is the key part, when we understand that wiring, we can work with our brains, not against them. We can achieve really remarkable things by focusing on what seems, well, insignificant at first. So, our mission for this deep dive really is to unpack the huge impact of what people often call 1% daily improvement. We're going to look at why waiting for perfection is honestly a major mental trap, how tiny first steps can conquer even the most overwhelming goals, the sort of quiet magic of compounding small efforts over time, and incredibly, how just tweaking one single habit can shift your entire life's trajectory. It's pretty powerful stuff.
I'm really excited about this because, this isn't about some grand, intimidating plan that you try for 3 days and then give up on, right? This is about accessible, powerful shifts. It's almost like a blueprint for how you can genuinely start transforming your life starting today. Money one, the trap of waiting for ready. Why small steps are the real starting line. Okay, so let's dig into that feeling first, that sense that you're just not quite there yet, not ready enough, not skilled enough, maybe not knowledgeable enough to start something new. Think about it launching a side project, maybe starting a workout routine, or even just like waking up a bit earlier. There's often that internal voice saying, wait, not yet.
That is such a powerful tendency, isn't it? This
Mhm.
deep belief that we need the perfect plan, or that we have to know everything or gather all the gear before we can possibly start. And it seems logical on the surface, but it's actually a really effective mental trap. It keeps so many of us stuck for way too long. But the reality is, well, nobody starts perfectly. You don't see an athlete hitting their peak on day one, do you? Or a writer whose first draft is, a masterpiece. It just doesn't happen. True growth isn't about showing up perfectly formed. It's really about accepting something simpler. Okay, I might not be great at this yet, but I've started. That's the crucial bit.
And that's exactly where this idea of 1% per day feels so, well, liberating. It's a fantastic way to break free from that perfection mindset. It shifts your focus from some huge, scary endpoint to just a simple daily commitment. It's about saying, look, I might not nail it today, but I'll aim to be just slightly better tomorrow.
Mhm.
It frees you up to just move forward step by step. No need to sprint. Just don't stop walking.
And the brain science here is just fascinating. Our brains are actually designed to respond to progress, even tiny, tiny changes. When you succeed, even in a small way, like one more push up, reading one more page, your brain releases dopamine. That's that feel good chemical, the reward signal. And it's not just fleeting, that feeling of, hey, I can do this actively builds your internal motivation. Repeat that consistently, and your brain learns something fundamental. Action doesn't need huge results, it just needs continuous repetition. That's literally how habits form at a deep level.
Right. So imagine wanting to exercise. If your first thought is, okay, 2 hours a day starting Monday, your brain just floods with excuses, doesn't it?
Mm.
But if you start with just, say, 5 push-ups or a 5-minute walk,
Yeah.
or even something as simple as putting on your workout clothes every day, your brain doesn't really fight it. Why? Because it's easy enough. It's doable right now. And that small win gets registered. And then the desire to maybe do a little more or just repeat it tomorrow starts to grow naturally.
Exactly. And if you zoom out, this idea of readiness,
Mm.
it's not some magical state you achieve by just waiting around. True readiness comes from practice, from actually doing the thing, not from waiting for conditions to be perfect. Think about successful people you admire. They weren't born ready. They dared to start when they weren't good. They learned from real experience day after day. Their readiness was built through action.
So the people who embrace this 1% starter approach, they gain some really significant advantages. They build real confidence, not from massive leaps, but from that daily small progress. Slow maybe, but it's real. They build discipline through systems that are actually repeatable. They don't just drain all their willpower in one go. And maybe most importantly, they accumulate mental energy from those small daily wins. It's like building momentum, that consistent positive feedback loop. Well, people waiting for perfect just never get to experience that.
And we see brilliant examples of this in the sources. James Clear, for instance, the Atomic Habits author. His recovery from a really serious accident wasn't one big heroic push. It was about consistently doing tiny, easy things every day, building back slowly, step by step. And look where that consistency took him. He became a leading expert on this very topic. Or think about the ordinary person example, someone starting by reading just 5 pages a day, or running 5 minutes, or writing one sentence towards a goal. That person, just through that simple daily act, can genuinely become someone completely different in a year. It's transformation through tiny steps.
So when it comes down to it, the core message isn't really about trying harder in these intense bursts. It's about trying consistently in small, manageable ways, day after day. A better life doesn't suddenly appear because of some grand inspiration or perfect plan. It just requires doing small things every day. The advice is simple, really. Don't stop. And please, don't wait until you feel ready. Just start. Line 2. Conquering the overwhelming goal. Why big dreams need tiny first steps. Okay, let's shift gears slightly and talk about those big, ambitious goals. They can feel, well, immediately daunting, can't they? It's usually not that we lack dreams. It's the sheer scale of them that often turns that aspiration into pressure, into something that feels heavy. Just picturing that distant finish line, your brain can instantly conjure up images of exhaustion, difficulty, uncertainty. And that often makes us just back down before we even start.
That's such a critical point. The goal itself, the dream, that's not the enemy. The problem is trying to view it all at once. That complete picture is what creates the fear. It really is like standing at the foot of a huge mountain and asking, how do I get to the top today? It feels impossible. And that feeling just leads straight to discouragement. You stop before you even take a step, when in reality, all you might need to do today is take one small step, just get a few meters closer. And this ties into something in psychology called the energy cost theory. Basically, our brains are hardwired to conserve energy whenever possible. It's a survival mechanism. So anything that looks big, difficult, or like it will require a lot of effort, the brain automatically tries to avoid it. It puts up resistance. Now, that doesn't mean you can't do it. It just means you need a different strategy. You need to start with the lightest possible action first, the easiest thing. Then the brain gradually accepts it, adapts, and it kind of opens the door for you to do a bit more later, often without even noticing the extra effort.
So understanding that makes sense. Starting small isn't about being lazy then, or cowardly. It's actually the smartest way to work with your brain's natural tendencies, not fight against them. A huge goal might seem hundreds of steps away, sure, but that very first step, however small, it changes your perspective, doesn't it? It starts to show you the path, helps you find a rhythm, and maybe most importantly, you start learning about yourself as you go.
Exactly. And it connects directly to this idea of the power of accumulation. Many psychologists, especially those working with concepts like atomic habits, really emphasize this. These small, repeated, conscious actions, they're literally the foundation stones. They build a new version of you, bit by bit. And when enough of those small actions accumulate, they become this incredibly powerful force. They push your life in a new direction, often one you couldn't have predicted. It's quiet work with a loud impact eventually.
And you see this pattern in so many success stories. People who seemingly started from scratch, like Elon Musk. He started by writing small video games when he was just 12. Kind Eat programs. Bill Gates, famously coding with a friend in a school basement. Or Jack Ma, facing rejection after rejection before deciding, okay, I'll teach English myself. That led to Alibaba.
The common thread there is fascinating, isn't it? They all dared to take that first step. And crucially, they didn't underestimate the power of that initial small action. That first step might look insignificant, almost nothing, but without it, there's no 10th step, no 100th step, definitely no finish line. The entire journey hinges on starting with that one small, often overlooked action.
And it's so vital to get this. Confidence isn't something you magically have before you start. It's not a prerequisite. It's the result of taking action repeatedly and seeing yourself actually make progress, real progress. Starting small creates those little wins, and your brain notices. It tells itself, see, we did that, we can do this. And as you collect those small victories day by day, your belief in yourself grows. You start to truly think, yeah, I can actually create change.
So to kind of wrap up this part, just remember, no real success story starts with the big picture fully formed and achieved instantly. It doesn't work like that. Everything significant comes through stages of small actions. Reading one page, exercising for 10 minutes, writing down one goal, even just improving your internal self-talk one sentence at a time. They sound small, I know, but done daily, consistently, they build into this immense power. A power that genuinely changes your thoughts, your behavior, and ultimately your whole life.
So the practical advice here, if your dream feels miles away, Don't pressure yourself to do something huge today. Just don't. Just pick one small action you can do right now, effortlessly. Wake up 10 minutes earlier tomorrow. Write down one thing you want to do. Walk for 5 minutes. Choose one healthy meal today. That is the most powerful first step you can take. You don't need to run the whole race today. Just walk small steps every day. And one day you'll look up and find you're standing right where you dreamed of being, maybe without even realizing how far you've walked. 3. The compounding magic of 1%. How small gains become life-changing power. We live in a world that's just saturated with images of overnight success, grand slams, instant transformations. So it's really tempting to look for shortcuts, isn't it? We all want that quick fix. But the simple truth, the one that often gets overlooked, is that sustainable change, the kind that really lasts. It never comes from a single massive burst of effort. It doesn't come from trying to get everything you want right now. Instead, it comes from something quieter, but way more powerful. Accumulation.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And this is where that 1% daily improvement idea really shows its magic. 1% sounds like almost nothing, right? Insignificant. But when you repeat that tiny improvement day after day, the results can fundamentally change your entire life system. It's actually surprising how potent it is. Just imagine improving yourself by only 1% each day, maybe in your health, your knowledge, your finances, your communication, whatever it is. The math is kind of startling. In just 1 year, you're not just 365% better. Because of compounding, you're actually over 37 times better than when you started. That's the compounding effect. And it doesn't just work for money. It works powerfully for habits, skills, mindset, your whole life. It's like interest accruing on your efforts.
Wow, 37 times. That really puts it in perspective. And it shows how different this 1% approach is from trying to make some huge quantum leap. It doesn't create that intense mental pressure, the kind that makes you want to give up. It doesn't trigger your brain's natural resistance to massive change. And crucially, it fosters that feeling of, yeah, I can do this. I can do this again tomorrow. That sustains motivation like nothing else, which is so different from trying to overhaul everything at once, right? That usually just leads to failure, feeling exhausted, feeling guilty, and eventually just throwing in the towel.
It does make you wonder why we're so drawn to the dramatic, the instant wow factor. We crave speed, we want those big results now. But we often forget that all lasting success, the kind that sticks, it comes from simple, repeated, continuous actions. Those huge transformations we admire, they're almost always built on countless ordinary moments of just showing up.
Yeah, you see it everywhere when you look closely. People who are really fit, they're not usually hitting the gym for 6 hours straight once a month. No, they walk every day, maybe run a bit, consistently, mindfully, for years. People fluent in another language. It wasn't some weekend crash course. They listened, spoke, read, wrote every day, even when they were tired, even when they didn't feel like it. And people who build savings, it's rarely a lottery win. It's setting aside small amounts consistently, often starting back when they had very little to save.
Let's bring James Clear back in here. He's such a perfect example himself. His whole journey, his whole philosophy didn't start with some incredible innate discipline. It started with small, totally achievable daily efforts. Consistent short exercise, journaling, carefully observing his own habits and environment. He didn't transform overnight. But over years, by deliberately stacking those 1% improvements day after day, he completely changed his life and helped millions understand how they could too.
So, thinking about this, what do you think is the biggest thing that stops us from seeing the value in these small improvements? Why do we dismiss them?
From what I see, it usually comes down to impatience and comparison. We want results now. We look at others who seem further ahead. And when we don't see dramatic changes immediately from our small efforts, we feel like it's pointless. And that's when we quit. We lose faith in the process.
There's a great analogy for this, I think. Imagine water drops hitting a stone. Each small action you take is like one of those drops, silently accumulating. One drop does nothing. A wince of drops might not show much change. A month, maybe still nothing visible. But if those drops keep falling consistently day after day, eventually even the hardest stone has to yield. It wears away. That's the quiet, relentless, transformative power of 1% daily growth. It's not the force, it's the persistence. So how do you actually build the discipline for that kind of accumulation? Without it feeling like a huge chore, it sounds like it doesn't start with forcing massive change. It starts by designing small systems that are easy to follow, systems that are kind to yourself almost. Like if you want to read more, don't aim for 30 pages tonight. Just commit to 1 page. Seriously, just one. Want to eat healthier? Don't try to go full vegan paleo overnight. Just change your breakfast first. Want to use your phone less? Don't delete everything. Just start by putting it away for the first 10 minutes after you wake up. Make it easy.
That's the core principle. Anything that can start small can eventually scale incredibly big. if you stick with it. Your life doesn't change because you set some huge, vague goal for the future. It changes because of what you do repeatedly every single day. That's where the transformation happens. A disciplined person isn't someone who is always motivated. No, they're someone who practices even when they don't feel like it. Someone who really changes themselves, learns to value those small, seemingly insignificant daily actions. Successful people don't necessarily do more in a single day than you. They just don't stop, even when the progress each day seems tiny.
So take a moment and really imagine this. If today you just started moving up by 1% in one area, and you kept doing that every day for a year, or 3 years, or 5 years, what kind of person would you actually become? What skills would you have? What habits? What inner strength? You absolutely have the potential to get there. It starts today. No need to rush. No need to change everything at once. Just change 1% a day. Let it accumulate, little by little, until you become that new version of you. Success really doesn't escape those who just keep walking. It finds them. And you can be one of them if you stop underestimating the power of the small things you start today. One day, those tiny steps will add up to a turning point you never expected. You'll see just how much your life can improve, all from that simple 1% a day, minute 4. The domino effect. How changing one habit can change your entire trajectory. Here's a thought that really resonates with me. Nobody changes their entire life in one single day. Just doesn't happen like that. But your life can fundamentally change direction based on just one choice you make today. And I'm not talking about some massive life-altering decision.
It could be something as simple as deciding to wake up 30 minutes earlier tomorrow, or drinking a glass of water before you even look at your phone, or taking 5 minutes to sit quietly and plan your day. Really small stuff.
It's so true. Those small habits, they seem almost insignificant to most people, don't they? Hardly worth mentioning. But they are actually the starting point, the trigger for immense transformative power. Our lives don't usually change because of big, dramatic events. More often, they shift gradually. They shift based on the small behaviors we repeat every single day, often without even realizing their cumulative effect. And this taps into a fundamental aspect of human psychology. We live largely on autopilot. We run on habit. Research actually suggests that something like over 40% of what we do each day isn't based on active decisions. It's driven by ingrained habits. So think about that. Changing just one habit isn't just changing one tiny thing. It's like adjusting a core axis that impacts your entire life's momentum. The analogy of the railway track is perfect. Change a small section right at the beginning, and miles down the line, the train ends up somewhere completely different. That's one habit.
Okay, let's make that concrete. Imagine 2 people, starting out pretty similar. One consistently wakes up a bit late, always rushing, feels unprepared heading into the day. The other makes a conscious choice. Wake up just 30 minutes earlier. Use that time to sit quietly, drink water, maybe quickly review goals, plan the day mindfully.
Right. Now, after just 1 week, you might not see a huge difference between them externally. But fast forward 3 months, 6 months, a year. The changes become really obvious. The person waking late often feels chaotic, reactive, just surviving day to day. The person who starts their day mindfully, they tend to develop a clearer vision for their life. They know where they're going, they feel more inspired, and they feel mentally stronger because they have this sense of control. I'm in charge of my morning, I'm in charge of my day. That's the domino effect in action, all from changing that one morning habit.
That makes perfect sense, but it leads to the big question. Okay, if I want this domino effect, how do I know which habit to change first? Where do I start?
That's a great question. The best way is usually to look at where you feel the most friction right now. What's your current weak point? If your days feel chaotic, aimless, maybe start with a simple planning habit, just 5 minutes. If you often feel tired, sluggish, unmotivated, try starting with an exercise habit, even just a 5-minute walk, seriously. If you struggle with focus, brain fog, maybe try waking up a bit earlier or making a rule, no phone for the first 30 minutes of the day. The absolute key, though, is to choose only one. Don't try to change 5 things at once. Pick one, and then just do it every day. Not perfectly, just consistently. Show up for it.
And it's so crucial to remember that lasting habit change isn't really fueled by inspiration, is it? Because inspiration is fickle. It comes and goes. What you need to build is a system that makes it easy. A system that's, like, friendly to your lazy self. If you want to write goals each morning, don't hide your notebook in a drawer. Put it right on your bedside table. Make it visible. Want to drink more water? Keep a water bottle right there on your desk, always in sight. The idea is, don't create habits by forcing yourself with willpower alone. Make it so easy to start that it's almost harder not to do it. Once you can start easily, every day just becomes routine, and that is the real turning point.
And this connects to where true inspiration comes from. It doesn't magically appear when you stare at a huge, distant goal. Real inspiration comes from seeing yourself take action, even a tiny action, and knowing deep down that you're not going to give up. The strongest people, I think, aren't the ones who've already succeeded. They're the ones who haven't succeeded yet, but they just refuse to quit. Because choosing to continue on a day when you see zero results, that's a deep internal victory that builds incredible inner stability. And that quiet stability is the foundation for huge success later on.
Think about this choice right now for today. You could spend the next half hour scrolling social media in bed. We've all done it. Or you could choose to get up, open the curtains, stretch, breathe deeply, maybe jot down 1 or 2 things you want to do today. On any single day, the difference might seem tiny, negligible. But fast forward a year. The person who consistently chooses to wake up with purpose, they'll be more confident. They'll know themselves better. They'll have a clearer vision. The other person might still be stuck in that same loop, wondering why life isn't changing. So if you feel like your life isn't quite where you want it, please resist the urge to think you need to change everything overnight. Instead, just ask yourself this one simple question. If I could change just one habit today, just one, what would it be? And then just start there with that one thing. Because a single small habit done consistently, truly, can flip your entire life system around. As long as you don't give up halfway, as long as you act with intention. You don't need to be faster than others. You don't need to work harder. Just be confident today that you chose a slightly better path than yesterday. And commit to doing it again tomorrow. That's the quiet, incredible power of changing just one habit. It could reshape your whole future. 5. Don't underestimate the power of the smallest changes, the unseen force of transformation. It's such a common feeling, isn't it? That deep desire to change your life, reach those big goals. But at the same time, feeling kind of lost or overwhelmed, feeling like everything is just too big, too hard, too far away. And that feeling often leads us to just waiting until we feel ready, waiting for more time, more money, more confidence. And all the while, the best solutions, those small, manageable things right in front of us, get completely overlooked because they seem too minor, too small to possibly make a difference.
And that perception is where we go wrong. Because the profound truth is this: consistent small behaviors always have more power than sudden big changes. Always. These small actions, done repeatedly, don't just tweak our behavior on the surface. They gradually, sometimes almost invisibly at first, transform our very being, our thoughts, our confidence, the entire picture of our lives. It often happens below the level of our conscious awareness initially, but with consistency, the results just accumulate. They build and build until they become undeniably clear, often in ways we never could have predicted. And this isn't just, wishful thinking. It's supported by a lot of psychological research, theories like the gradual behavior change theory. What it basically says is that we, as humans, are much more likely to accept and maintain new behaviors if they start small. If they start with things that are easy and don't create a lot of internal resistance, those big, rapid changes, they might feel exciting for a day or two, but they're rarely sustainable. Why? Because they demand way too much willpower, and they clash with our brain's fundamental need for stability and routine. It's about gently guiding change, not forcing it.
Right. So when we talk about these small changes that actually have a big impact, we mean things like a 5-minute walk every day, writing down one goal each morning, drinking one glass of water when you wake up. These things work long-term precisely because they're easy enough to start and, crucially, easy enough to continue doing every single day. The barrier to entry is low.
And here's the deep irony. Because they are so simple, most people just dismiss them. They overlook their power. We're sort of conditioned to believe that things have to be grand, dramatic, spectacular to be truly life-changing. But those grand things are often the very things that are too difficult to sustain, which leads us into those frustrating cycles of starting, getting tired, giving up, feeling guilty, starting again. We completely miss the fact that if we just allowed ourselves to start small, be consistent, and let time do its work, we could actually go much further than we ever imagined.
And this brings us back to dopamine again, that reward chemical. It's so key. Every single time you succeed at something small, even just once, your brain gives you that little hit, that feeling of, I did it. I can do this. Oh, that's the seed of confidence starting to grow. Then you try again tomorrow, succeed again, and the brain's belief gets stronger. Okay, I really can do this. That's how you build real internal motivation. You don't need external praise. You don't need huge results right away. Just that quiet satisfaction of winning a small battle with yourself day after day, that feeling carries you forward almost effortlessly.
And you see this quiet power in so many real-world examples. Think about the author Stephen King. How did he become so incredibly prolific? He started by aiming to write just 200 words a day. That was his initial goal. But he did it every day. Whether he felt like it or not, tired, inspired, didn't matter, just 200 words. And look what that consistency built. Or James Clear, again, his transformation wasn't about sudden, massive discipline. It was built on small, achievable daily habits, short exercise bursts, tweaking his environment to make good choices easier, consistent repetition and reflection through journaling.
Okay, let's paint one final picture. Two people, same starting point, same goals. Person A says, right, I'm changing my life starting now. They overhaul everything, diet, sleep, gym, new schedule, the works. 3 days later, they're exhausted, overwhelmed, they quit. And all that's left is guilt. Sound familiar? Now, person B chooses a different approach. They don't try to change everything at once. They start by just writing down one goal on paper each day. That's it. A few days later, maybe they add drinking a glass of water first thing. A week later, they start walking for 5 minutes a day. They don't change dramatically in 3 days. No, 3 months later, person B is more confident, more disciplined. They actually see themselves differently. They've quietly built a new foundation.
And that right there, that's the power of the small things, the things most people overlook. But the people who understand this power, they use it as the fundamental key to building a new life, a better life.
So the takeaway here is clear. You don't need to do anything massive today. You really don't. Just decide to walk for 5 more minutes, or write one more line, or change just one tiny thing in your routine. And then just do that again tomorrow and the day after. Do it repeatedly. And believe this, even if no one else notices, even if there's no applause, you will know you are changing. Deep down. And eventually, trust me, others will see it too. The results will become undeniable. Please never underestimate the power of small changes. Because sometimes, when you look back on your life, you realize that the smallest, most ordinary things you committed to, they were actually the biggest turning points. A better life doesn't just happen on some magical special day. It happens every single day that you dare to make the ordinary extraordinary, simply through your consistent intention, day after day after day. And eventually you'll find yourself on a path you never thought you could walk, having come further than you ever dreamed. All you need to do today is start with something small and just keep going. Don't give up. Outro. So that really brings us to the core of it, doesn't it?
The quiet yet incredibly profound impact of taking small, consistent steps. The journey to becoming a better version of yourself, a more fulfilled version. It doesn't start someday. It starts today, right now, with one tiny deliberate choice.
Absolutely. And considering everything we've talked about today, the 1% principle, compounding, the domino effect, overcoming that readiness trap, I want to leave you with one final question to think about. What single, seemingly insignificant step are you ready to take today, right now, knowing that it could be the silent yet most crucial foundation of the future self you want to become?
That is a powerful question to sit with. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the amazing power hidden in ordinary actions. We really hope you'll ponder that question and maybe, just maybe, take that very first small step as soon as this deep dive ends.